Welcome to the Purpose Focused Advisor. This show is for financial advisors who want to grow their business with clarity, lead with purpose, and build a life that reflects what matters most.
Welcome. Time once again for my favorite time of the week, the Purpose Focused Advisor podcast. Rob Brown here with my guest, Daniel Yu, who is the founder and CEO of FinMate AI, which is an AI note-taking assistant designed specifically for financial advisors. And I wanted to have this conversation for two or three reasons. First, I don't know what's going on out there. Maybe it's, Daniel and I were talking about this before the show started. Maybe it's all the money that's being raised by companies who are doing AI note-taking, because every advisor that I talk to seems to have this on their plate for consideration. So that's one reason. Second, Daniel actually spent some time at a few different investment firms, and at one point he was overseeing over $800 million in client assets as a senior advisor. So he gave up a pretty sweet gig, it sounds like, to get out into the tech space and create FinMate, and I think to explore AI in general, which is the third reason I'm excited about this conversation, is you can't go anywhere where somebody doesn't have an opinion about AI. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob, for having me on. Excited to get going.
So let's talk a little bit about why you left your investment business as a senior advisor and went out into this crazy, somewhat unknown tech space.
Yeah, very, very good question. So I was working for TD Ameritrade as one of the branch advisors at a local office. I was managing the book for TD. It was not my book. So for all the RIA advisors out there thinking I was earning a percent off that, it was not. I would not be here if that was the case. But there was a confluence of two or three things. Number one, I had been doing a master's program at the time at Johns Hopkins using AI to do stock price prediction modeling. And so that was part of my studies. It was more of a time series AI rather than a large language model AI, but still it was within the wheelhouse. Secondarily, Schwab had just bought out TD. And so I spent a year going through that transition process. And thirdly, my branch was in Silicon Valley Bay Area. And so a lot of my clients were in the tech space, and you get to wondering what it's like being on the other side of the table sometimes. After my entire career up to that point was as an advisor, and so post buyout, I was chatting with my thesis advisor, who happened to be a guy who worked for FINRA. He had mentioned that they were coming out with a new maintaining qualifications program, and so he encouraged me to put my licenses under the new program and go try something else out. So with those three factors, I decided to give this AI thing a shot.
So thesis advisor at Johns Hopkins is responsible for getting you pointed in this new direction.
Partially, yes.
No, I just that confluence of what you were doing before you did this is an interesting story all by itself.
Yeah.
So what was your thesis on at Hopkins?
Oh yeah, so again, it's a little bit different, but what I was trying to see was if the rise of ETFs as a investment vehicle was causing all of the different asset classes to start hypercorrelating during times of economic turmoil. So my thesis advisor described it as a heart attack, where bonds and equities are supposed to be counter to each other. But what we started seeing was during economic downturn times, it was starting to hypercorrelate, meaning it would all crash at once together, right? And we well, that kind of goes against this whole idea of a diversified portfolio, hedging against downturn in the market, right? Increasing stability. And my understanding, or my thesis at least, was, well, because of the prevalence of everyone just jumping into the S&P 500, if everyone starts doing the exact same thing and exiting at the exact same time, would that cause ripple effects throughout the investment market, causing this kind of heart attack thing to happen? And so what I wanted to determine was whether or not that effect was an actual thing. Yeah.
Got it. No, so it just, again, I love learning about people's backgrounds, because we're all made so uniquely and have different interests, and it continues to shape who we are and what we do in ways that it's hard to kind of piece them together, because I'm also having a hard time picturing a branch manager at TD Ameritrade also working on this very sophisticated degree, which just seems like two similar but divergent interests.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was not a branch manager. I was just a senior associate or advisor there, and so I didn't have to manage the team. And my regional director actually was the one who wrote my recommendation letter for that program. So, my undergrad, I did study economics at Cal.
Okay.
And we kind of dove deep into statistics, which leads into machine learning, which leads into AI. So it kind of all followed the same trend there. Yeah.
Very, very cool background, and also gives you some that combination of experiences seems to blend together well in your founding of FinMate. So talk about that. Talk about that decision to start your own shop.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, once I got going into the tech space, usually people say you should build for problems that you know. So initially, the problem that I was trying to solve for actually was I thought there weren't enough retail resources available for retail investors to do income investing. And so the first product that we were trying, that I was involved in co-founding, was basically a robo-advisor for income investors, kind of focusing in on dividend-producing stocks. I didn't see too much information out there. A lot of it was just based on growth, right? And so wanted to help some of the self-directed retirees or folks like that need to drive income. And then the Feds raised rates. And so that kind of died as an idea right when the Feds raised rates. And so we're like, all right, we got to find something else we need to work on. One of my biggest issues at TD was note-taking. I was not very good at it. My manager always got on my case about it. And part of it was, we had high volumes and, things like that. And so I wanted a solution to help fix that. And back when I was exploring the technical space, there was a lot of note takers already at that time for the generic marketplace. I played around with some of them and realized that they weren't specific enough for the advisor use case. And so in May of 2023, we launched the first advisor note taker. Obviously, after that, 6 months later, everyone and their mother seems to be making one of these things, but at least I can say that we were the first to build a note taker purely for the advisor marketplace.
Yeah, I love how practical you made that sound, that you had this idea that stemmed out of wanting to fix a known problem. And it was a problem that you had left behind, but you just knew that it existed. And it wasn't just AI is cool and I'm going to create something. It's I want to be able to solve a problem.
Right. And, for advisors, the important time is, how much time are you interfacing with clients, right? That's kind of the core of our business. That's how we make money. And so all of the administrative tasks that we have to do, compliance, things like that, in a sense, is taken away from being able to talk to more clients and service our clients more effectively. And so that's kind of the goal, is to get people back in front of clients more often.
So what makes AI for financial advisors, or note-taking AI in particular for financial advisors, different than some of the everyday tools? I mean, I use Otter. That's my note taker. I don't have a compliance person that I have to worry about. But what makes it so different for financial advisors?
Yeah, I would say there's two things that we focus on. One is user experience, and the second is on the compliance. So even tools that are ostensibly for advisors but aren't built by advisors, I would say they approach the problem a little differently. Core to that is a lot of the folks that are trying to build tooling for advisors end up being tech folks. And so I think they underestimate or overestimate rather the technical wizardry of our advisors, and that they build a lot of things that are overly complicated, hard to use, and hard to onboard onto. And so one of our core design philosophies is we need to make this as streamlined and as simple as possible, so that advisors who tend to be a little bit less tech savvy can hop on and use us without any issue. And so everything is built towards that, out of the box solutions, off the rack things, very simple directed directions internal to the platform, driving people forward, and then ignoring a lot of the additional, wow, AI is cool, fluffy features that really aren't helping drive the business forward. And so we have templates that are geared towards the advisor space that are based off of my experiences as an advisor. So that's on the feature and the ease of usage side of things. So, one of our great triumphs is we had folks kind of in their 60s and 70s hop on and use us without ever talking to us, right? Like that's amazing. That's great. That's what we want to do, right? Because we're a tool company. At the end of the day, we're not trying to be some fancy center of command, right? We use us to get what you need for compliance and for record keeping, and then let us get out of your way after that, right? The second part is on the security aspect of it, and I think I mentioned at the top there, as an advisor, I tend to view data more as a risk rather than an asset. I think a lot of tech companies and tech folks tend to view data as an asset rather than a risk. And so we're probably the only company still out there, AI company, to proactively delete all data. So all the audio, video that we process, everything that we create for our clients, notes, transcripts, emails, sentiment analysis, financial data to feed into planning software, we delete it all for a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't want to be BNR, right? And so I'm sure all of our advisors don't want us involved in their audits either, and we don't want to get involved in the audits. And then secondarily, if an AI company is keeping data as a default, chances are they're going to do something with it down the road, even if they say they're not going to do anything with it now. Because if they truly weren't going to do anything with it, they'd just wipe it all out, right? And I wanted to provide that kind of safe alternative for people that, like, hey, we're not in the business of collecting any data at all, right? And we're serious about that, and so we're going to wipe it all out. We have designed our platform to push data into core systems that the advisor has, so CRMs, planning software, and other form filling places, and then we just get rid of it on our end.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you went into that in some detail, because as I talk to advisors about note taking and about AI, I think one of the first things I hear is, I can't do that because I hear, ChatGPT or whatever keeps all of my data, and I would never want to subject my clients' personal financial information to, some big data warehouse that might use it in some inappropriate way later.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. They'll let you delete it, right? And so you can delete it. But I'm talking about like the philosophy behind the platform, what that company is going for, what the purpose of it is, right? And so again, our purpose is to be a tool for the advisor, which is why we're happy to fully delete everything, so that we can't renege on it down the road.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. And so let's now kind of turn the page a little bit here and talk about where AI is going in the financial advice space, because obviously it's not going to stop. It hasn't stopped at note taking. What are you seeing out there in the financial advice world that maybe what is there anything that keeps you up at night that you worry that AI will do that you wish that it wouldn't, and likewise, are there things in particular that you think AI could do to add value to the advisor the way that the note taking is doing?
Right. So there's two ways to view AI broadly, right? One is as an assistant to whatever position, and the other is as a replacement to whatever position, right? And so in the assistant perspective, right, an assistant to someone is AI usage as an assistant to someone is de facto a replacement for someone, right? What I mean by that is, let's say you're a advisor company and you need to do marketing copy per se, right? There's AI tools out there where it can create a marketing copy for you, distribute it out, and do all of that. Whereas previously you would have hired a marketing consultant to maybe do that for you, right? And so for the advisor perspective, AI is a tool to help them do marketing. From the marketer's perspective, AI is replacing their position, right? And so, we see a lot of these things, right? A lot of kind of pair planning roles might go away. Not necessarily, the pair planners, because there's plenty of things to do besides data entry into planning softwares. Some front office tasks might be going away. A lot of the administrative logistics tasks might be going away, and things like that. But I will also say for the advisor, the thing that the advisor needs to look out for is an advisor is an assistant to whoever is getting financial advice from, right? And so then the question is for the retail investor, can AI replace advisors, right? And that's kind of the big question that everyone's always asking about. I have my theories on it, but yeah, Rob, I mean, what are your thoughts on it currently before I jump in?
I don't think AI can completely replace the advisor. I think there is just too much value that comes from personal advice and really getting to know somebody that isn't going to go away. It can't be that total. In fact, I was talking with a client earlier this morning who presented a solution to one of his clients to solve a financial planning need. And the client is a super skeptical guy. Sure. And he plugged into AI, ChatGPT or whatever,
sure. Yeah.
what he was presented with by the advisor, and then came to the advisor and told the advisor that he was lying to him, that what he was suggesting could never work.
Interesting.
And so, but he shared the output with the advisor, and then the advisor said, well, if you ask the wrong question, you're most likely going to get the wrong answer. And it turned out that the client didn't put the right information in there. And so the advisor actually took the time to recreate the prompt and ask the question the right way, and ended up kind of giving himself some extra ammunition as to why what he suggested fit the client conversation. My view is AI in the hands, in any topic, in the hands of somebody who doesn't really know anything about that topic is dangerous. AI in the hands of somebody who is a subject matter expert can be a resource and a tool to make what they do better. So that's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but
no, appreciate it. Yeah. I do think that there will be some replacement happening, unfortunately, because that's just the nature of optimization, right? And the trend that I'll target is this, like post-corona, we're seeing a huge movement towards virtual practice, like virtual only practices. And some of those virtual only practices are targeting the, let's say, mass affluent market. And so, back at TD, my, client base was mostly 1 mil to, let's say, 5 mil assets with TD. And so it was kind of the high net worth individuals, right? Not quite reaching the ultra high net worth, but not like the mass affluent, 500 to 1 mil. The big trend I've been seeing is a lot of folks going kind of the subscription model for financial advising, where they're doing high volume for the mass affluent market, 500 to 1 mil. But a lot of those cases are going to be very cookie cutter, right? And high volume, right? Because there's very little variance when you're kind of at that stage, which I think people can agree with. I think the danger in replacement is within that segment of the market, because that's kind of already the segment that robo-advisors are targeting. And maybe robo-advisors are more targeting the below mass affluent, maybe 0 to 500 marketplace. But there's already AI companies out there that can kind of do what I'm doing here, which is showing up in front of a video camera screen with an avatar and talking to you, right? There's already AI companies that can take me and copy me and have a video version of me show up. And so what's stopping a company from just having the AI show up in front of a video and do some very cookie cutter kind of meetings, right? And so I was interviewed for an article about a month ago, I would say, they asked me for my 10-year hot take on AI and advising. And my 10-year hot take was, I think advisors need to go back to in-person meetings because AI cannot replace that as easily as what we're doing now, which is just a purely virtual experience. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that because I'm a big believer that we've lost touch with people by making the virtual meeting too easy. You know, it used to be the rare thing where client moved across the country and you just needed to do something like that. And now it almost feels like you could be in the same building with somebody and they might rather like get on their Zooms as opposed to just like walking around the corner and sitting down in person. So I think that's huge. And I think by being with somebody in person, you really get to understand them better. There's just a dynamic there that, again, I don't think AI can or virtual can replace.
Yeah, totally agreed. And so that's my take on the future of the industry with AI.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, let me ask you a related question.
Sure.
I have, one of the big things that I really encourage advisors to do is to be constantly upgrading their client service game, because that's really where a lot of the value comes in, is the service and the delivery and the relationship and the trust
Yes.
that you create with advisors. But irrespective of AI, but maybe more from a technology perspective, there are a lot of advisors out there because they have great tools for financial planning or asset allocation, whatever it may be. They've kind of turned their client service into the delivery of a technology created financial plan, and in effect, they are becoming human robo advisors.
Yes.
They are just data inputters because they can. You can just gather
Right.
their information, ask a few
Right.
response questions,
Right.
spits out a good thing, and say, "Here's your plan."
Our AI also can input data into planning software. So yes.
Yeah. So you have to be careful. I mean, you have to be on guard. That's why I say you really need to be thinking about, as an advisor, what are you doing to add value? If you're able to save yourself a bunch of time by doing AI note taking, what can you do at that time that adds value to your clients or value to your business in a way that you're getting even more of a return on the investment that you're making in that tool, in that AI?
Right. So you completely agreed, right? I think we're moving in the direction of us doing and automating a lot of the back office work, right? Data entry, planning, right? And planning, all the projections are based on calculators, right? So as long as the data inputs are there, plans get spat out. And so I think the real kicker will be, okay, the advisor with all this newly acquired free time has three options really. One, acquire more clients, right? Build a bigger book of business, right? And so I think an advisor can realistically have about 300, 400 households, right? On a full, annual review schedule. Maybe they go up to 400, 500, 600 is one way. Number two is, go more of a lifestyle business and, take it a little easier, right? Or number three, I think what you can do is more of a high touch kind of meeting where now advisors can afford to just chat it up with their clients for longer because their back office is a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it remains to be seen exactly how much gets automated away. I think even some of the human touch elements are also being able to get automated. So, for example, let's say I know there are platforms being created right now where, on birthdays, anniversaries, special dates that you can kind of input in, they'll either send out automated emails, reminders, gifts even, right? And you can send them out to clients, right? And, whereas previously we would have to remember their birthday, buy coffee, gift card, chocolate, and then send it out. Platforms now can automate that, right? And so I really think that the in-person communication is like the last bastion of what advisors can offer to their clients that cannot be automated away.
Yeah, I think you separate into those three groups very well. But I might push back a little bit when you say chat it up, because to me, one of the most beneficial activities that an advisor can do with a client, in that it doesn't have to be in person, but I think in person helps, is have a meaningful chat it up time. So instead of just asking the raw questions like when do you want to retire and how much money do you need, you can start asking purpose questions. You want to retire when you turn 65. You realize that you're basically planning for a 20 or 30-year vacation.
Right.
And you have a hard time planning for a 2-week vacation. So what do you want to do on that vacation?
No, I totally agree
that is
with you.
more than maybe just, playing golf a few times a week or
Right.
taking a bucket list trip. And
Agreed.
I know I picked on you a little bit when talking about your comment about chatting it up, but I'm so focused on that because those questions are so important to the advisor relationship, and we know that that's not something that AI can replace.
Yeah, totally agreed. Even when I was coming up in the industry, we didn't really call it like, oh, when's your retirement date, right? It's like when you want to be, financially independent, right? Or like when you want to not have to work, right?
Right.
Because I think the trend is that people are not just retiring and just collecting seashells, right? The trend is people want to do things after, but without the burden of having to work to sustain a life, right? So totally understand that. We have worked with some folks like Ross Marino from the Advisor 2X conference to co-build out like a behavioral finance template for the notes as well. So as he does his intro meetings, he really gets to know family history, background, vision on, what money means to them, right? And so we're talking to some other folks, advisors as well, that really focus on that part of the practice, on the behavioral and the vision side of things. And, I think, again, that can be helped by AI, but I think those kind of conversations will be a lot harder to automate away. So, yeah, I'm with you there.
Right. But it's interesting, as I heard you describing that, you still relayed that AI can be a part of that process, and
Oh yeah,
and I think that is one of the things that I try to help some of the advisors that I meet and coach think about is, you're talking about AI all the time. You're also talking about improving processes and systems and creating automations. Let's pick some things in your practice that maybe some things you don't like doing that we can totally like get rid of or automate or use AI for. But what are things like that client experience that we can use the AI to enhance it, because it can give us some intelligent prompts and help and getting into those deeper conversations and collecting them and thinking about them more fully on the client's behalf.
Yeah. That I think that's a good bifurcation of what AI does: is automate away things you don't want to do, and then enhance your capacities and capabilities to do things that maybe you haven't thought about before. So
yeah, awesome. Well, Daniel, it is about time to land the plane. We've had kind of a far-reaching conversation. I think we made it through all three of the areas that I hoped to talk about when I started the conversation earlier. But is there anything I missed? Is there anything else that you would want to pass on to advisors, as they're thinking about this, whether it's AI note-taking or AI in general, that you see as maybe best practices that are really moving the needle for advisors?
Yeah. I think one thing that would be interesting to emphasize is why AI is so hot right now, and how advisors should think about AI as things roll forward in the next coming 2-3 years. The reason why AI I think is so hot right now is, number one, it does amazing things, granted, right? But I think in the context of the macro environment of funding, I think it plays a big part of it, right? So pre-corona, into corona, post-corona, because of the economic downturn. I mean, for folks that, remember the M&A situation for a lot of advisory practices, even there was a huge bubble of revenue multipliers, right, in the advisor space that were getting bought out by private equity. That crashed down. I think a lot of venture capitalists and private equity had powder to burn on the side, but they were unwilling to pull the trigger for a good number of years, right? And so they had all this stockpile of cash that weren't being invested. So when AI came out as a pretty useful thing, I think everyone just fired all their shots at once, which means that there's a huge influx of money into the industry right now, which is why you're seeing, again, everyone and their mother's creating an AI company. And so that's probably why there's such a huge push, is because the PE and VC space had been waiting to invest in something or anything. And so it's funny, like 90-something% of new startups for Y Combinator, if you're familiar with that, were AI companies, whereas previous, iteration of that was like 70% of it was like crypto companies, right? And so we're seeing this huge push of capital into this space, which is why you're seeing a lot of movement and development. But it is a trend, and it remains to be seen how long this trend can be sustained. And so I would say, as you're thinking through AI, I would think through, as you're thinking through what wagon to hitch your horse to, all right? Or which horse to hitch your wagon to, sorry. Other way is
they both have to be hitched.
Yeah, hitched, right. But it's where is that company going? What are they trying to do? And kind of think through the long-term implications, as opposed to just kind of where it is now, because things will be changing very, very quickly.
Yeah, I imagine that you don't even have time to look over your shoulder. You just have to look forward and keep building your platform or your program out in a way that is forward-thinking and is also continuing to add value to your clients. I did, based on what I've gotten to know about you through this conversation and a previous one, I feel like you really there's a real purpose behind what you're doing. It wasn't to start an AI company just to have an AI company, or to start an AI company just to make a ton of money. It was you really wanted to do something good with it that solved a problem for advisors, which allows them to solve problems more for their clients. So I think that's a pretty important thing.
Thanks.
And what is the best way to for someone to get in touch with you and learn more about FinMate AI?
Yeah, been appearing on a bunch of podcasts, so you can Google us, FinMate AI, and our website is www.finmate.ai. That's FINMATE.ai. And you can reach me, you can book a call with me, or my email is daniel@finmate.ai.
Okay, awesome. We'll be sure to put that info into the show notes. Well, Daniel, thank you for being on the show. To our audience, thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And as always, we're rooting for your success. Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Purpose Focused Advisor. If today's episode gave you something to think about, or a step you're ready to take, head over to truestfancoaching.com. There you'll find tools, resources, and ways we can work together to help you lead with purpose and build the business and life you were meant for. If you enjoyed the show, we'd be grateful if you take a moment to rate and review it. It helps more advisors find their way here.